And that wherever I can find that and get that, that's going to be what's going to bring me the ultimate happiness in my life, satisfaction. And so in time, I began to realize that that was Krishna. It's quite profound when you realize that. And, you know, as I travel around and as I meet people, I find that people of all the different traditions, religions, whatever they may be, those who hold that love energy, love for God and love for the living entity, those living entities are the most beautiful, amazing, and happy living entities. So it's always important. We can always develop a little more love. And I think it's definitely talked about in the Hare Krishna movement a lot, you know, love of God. But it can always be talked about more. I know my spiritual master is very known to be a loving person. And that's what attracted me here and to him. And when you grow up in the Christian church, there's an emphasis on love. It's emphasized, love, 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 love. Of course, they don't love the animals because they're killing the animals, but it's emphasized. So I was thinking I'd speak about that. First by saying I love all of you very dearly and thankful for the opportunity to serve you. So love is the function of the soul. And it's so obvious that the living entity is always meditating on love because all the movies, all of the dramas, all of the books, every movie, even movies that are historical, like about historical events, they have to have a love story intertwined in them, right? Especially the love between man and woman, that's Adi Ras. It's originally the love of Radha Krishna. So the perverted reflection of that in the material world is we have the mundane level, but the original rasa, the original taste, is called Adi Ras. That's the love of Radha and Krishna and the gopis. So that's the original love. And so the reason that everybody's attracted to these love stories, the reason everybody wants to live out their own love story is simply because Krishna is, they want to hear the love of Radha and Krishna. Thank you very much. They want to meditate on Radha and Krishna's love. But unfortunately, many times living entities want to be Radha and Krishna. They want to imitate Radha and Krishna instead of participating in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But in any case, they're seeking that love. They're seeking that. That's the function of the soul. So in the pursuit of love and the pursuit of happiness, the most important thing is to get the who right. We have to get the who right. Horton hears it a lot. You have to get the who right. The who is the most important part. We have these questions: who, what, when, where, how, and why. And the most important one is the who. And the who is not who do you love, it's who are you. Or who are you? And of course we all know, devotees all know that we're part and parcel of Krishna. That's the essential who, that I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore, if we understand that in real proper understanding, and there's no need for anything else. That's the ultimate realization. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore, in understanding that, we can understand everything else. So if we want love, we get the who right, first and foremost. And so I think everybody has room to improve, right, on how we can be more loving, how we can be more caring and forgiving and kind, and how we can express that more and more. So when I was just a brand new bhakta, I remember I met my spiritual master, and then within like a week, the lockdown happened. And when the lockdown happened, all of a sudden, I was put in charge of organizing these Zoom classes. And I was hosting Zoom classes with Gurudev. And the most common attendees were Bhakta Freddy and myself, and different devotees, some devotees from San Antonio. Of course, Govinda and Radha would chime in, different devotees would chime in, but I was always there hosting these Zoom calls. And these were really far out good classes. And I remember this was like the formation of, what I wanted to be, my Krishna consciousness. And once I asked my Gurudev, I said, how do we feel the love? And how do we give the love? And he was very, very kind and benevolent. And he said, in time, you'll begin to feel it. And in time, you'll begin to be able to give it as you practice Krishna consciousness sincerely, Kiya sincerely. So how do we feel it? How do we show it? And so Krishna gives us an instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavanyas yasmi chatpataha tatava tatvidyokatas vishate tadanantaram. He says that I can only be understood as I am by pure devotional service. And when one is fully conscious of me by such devotional service, he can enter into the kingdom of God. And so bhakti is the key to knowing God. Then he says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Nasochti Nakankshati, Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. That when one is thus situated, Brahma Bhuta, on that Brahma Bhuta platform, when one really knows that I'm not this body, he becomes Prasanatma. His Atma, his soul, and his body and his mind, they become prasan, they become enlivened. They become enlivened. So the devotee becomes enlivened, Prasanatma. And then this verse, this phrase, Nasochti Nakankshati, he stops hankering and he stops lamenting for that which he's lost. This is a real symptom of an advanced personality. When we stop our hankering, I don't want this anymore. It's natural renunciation. I'm not in need of this. Nasochti Nakankshati. Not hankering, not desiring. And then Samasarveshu Bhuteshu. He sees all living entities equally. And so then the real love can develop, that I'm now starting to see the living entities equally. And so in the previous, state of consciousness, the material state of consciousness, we have a tendency to see living entities as friend, as enemy, devotee, non-devotee, so many different things we see. This is a devotee, I appreciate, this devotee I don't appreciate. And so we see like that in the conditioned state, and it's natural. And it's okay in the beginning stage. But at a certain stage, Samasarveshu Bhuteshu, the symptom of a learned person is not that one is very knowledgeable in scripture or knows the Sanskrit or knows so many things. The symptom of a learned person is that he sees the cow, the dog eater, the brahmana, and the outcast all with an equal eye. That's the idea of a pandita. He sees with an equal eye. He doesn't distinguish between man and woman. He sees equally. This is a symptom of a learned man. And we can say so many things about that learned man's external characteristics. We can say, we're all judging based on this symptom of I'm a better religionist. Sometimes we see like that, no? I'm a better religionist. I do all the mudras. I wake up earlier. I do this or I do that. I follow this and that. But actually, no. One who really genuinely has samadarshana, that's the learned man. And that could be from any tradition, right? Samadarshana. So the Samasarveshu Bhuteshu, and then only then, Mad Bhaktim Labate Param, then one can develop genuine love for God. That's when love for God develops. Mad Bhakti Labate Param, one develops love for God. And so if we want to really understand how to be loving, we have to come to that platform, that Brahmabhuta platform. We may jump onto it for some time, may fall out of it. But it's not so easy because the body identification is so strong, so difficult not to identify with the body. We can say so many times, I'm not this body, but do you really live like you're not this body? Living like we're not this body, of course, means that we're situated in pure transcendental consciousness. We don't need anything. Nasochti Nakankshati. Satisfaction. Such a person is like Srila Prabhupada. Very advanced spiritual personalities there on that stage of Nisochi Nikamshati. They know this. And therefore, Prabhupada says, then the real universal brotherhood and love can come. One can genuinely love each other. But there's something deeper. We can access that, even though we're not on this level, we can access. And there's a process. But the first thing we have to understand is that bodily identification always leads to self-hatred. That's what I've been noticing more and more, that the more we identify with this body and the mind and the psyche, the more we kind of develop a sense of self-hatred, which always sabotages us. The most gross form of that is, vanity, mundane vanity. I can't stop looking at myself in the mirror. I got to look so nice, and I got to have, this mundane vanity. But then the higher form of that is that, I am so obsessed with my own image. How are people perceiving me? How am I appearing to the world? How am I appearing to this person or that person? And people, even those who are wearing tilak, they can become absorbed in that world of, look at me. And then when they're unable to fulfill the role they want to play, then naturally I feel very depressed. I feel unenthusiastic. I don't feel like I can chant. I can't get up. And so in this way, the living entity has not even approached genuine Krishna consciousness. We're chanting maybe. That's good. So there's so many things, but this body identification leads to so much self-hatred, especially, and I'll explain why. And it's an important realization to understand if you're going to really transcend the modes of material nature. This world is a dual world, correct? It's a world of duality. So you're the pure soul. The pure soul is pure. It's Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. Nisochi Nikamshati is non-dual. It's with Krishna. It is Satchidananda. The pure soul is a non-dual entity. But when you project your consciousness into this world, now you have a body and you have a mind. That body and mind have no choice but to be dualistic. There's no choice. If you're in the material world, there's always a duality. Love always is met with hate. Beauty is always met with ugliness. There's always some duality. And if I try to live, if I'm just on the psychic level, on the mental level, trying to be a devotee, then what happens is I will develop self-hatred because I'm thinking, okay, let me be the image I want to be. I want to be a devotee. What is a devotee? Okay, we have our societal standards. Look at me, I'm free from lust. Look at me, I'm free from anger. Look at me, I'm free from greed. Look at me, I'm free from this, I'm free from that. And so we have so many different images. And in time, we understand that actually the body cannot be freed from any of these things because these things are inherent in the body. The body, it's like if I say I'm free from eating, I don't need to eat. No, the body requires energy. The body has so many demands. The mind has so many demands. So therefore, one who is desiring to advance spiritually must acknowledge that I am not this body and that whatever external I'm putting on is really not me. We have to have some type of persona to function in the world. And the problem is with relationships, and the problem is with genuine love, is people fall in love with the persona. But the persona is not the real you. And so, generally, two people who are falling in love, especially in this Adi Ras, this conjugal man-woman Ras, is that I put on a certain image. And for some time, I don't want the person to know that I'm, I have this and I have that and I have so many afflictions. Right? Natural. We put our best foot forward. And we try for as long as possible to keep down the other side, the natural opposite of all those qualities. But in time, they have to come out, and they will come out. It's a guarantee. And when they do come out, the fighting begins, the war begins. That's when the war happens, right? Now you're no longer the person that I thought you were. So therefore, people aren't really meeting each other in reality because they've identified with the body. They have not learned the proper way to love. So this body identification, I start playing a role, and all of those things in the back of my mind, which are, I don't want to admit, I begin to hate them. And so then what develops is the psyche is in cognitive dissonance, constantly self-hatred. That just drains our energy. It puts us completely low energy, draining us. So you see how this works. And so how could we love? We haven't even accepted genuine love for ourselves yet. And so when you really put yourself in that position, when you realize this, if you actually realize this, that you cannot escape envy, lust, anger, greed, avarice, and illusion, then you can escape them, because those things are part of the body. And you, as an embodied being, as an imprisoned being, how do you act outside the body? So you see, therefore, the Christians speak about this. There's this grace. We also speak about it, the kripa, the mercy. We need mercy. It has to be given to us. We have to come down. And so, therefore, humility forms the basis of our spiritual development. That's why Lord Chaitanya says, Trinada Pisunichena, Taroi Vasishnana, Manina, Madanina, Kirtaniya Siddhahari, that one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself more fallen than the lower than the blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, offering respect to all, but not expecting respect for oneself. And then one can genuinely chant the holy name. But as long as we're holding on to an image, and this is why there's so much emphasis in the Srimad Bhagavatam on these kind of false relationships. Dharma projito kaitavota paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Vedyan vastavam atravastu shivanam tapatrayonmulanam. Srimad Bhagavate mahamunikrita kimba parishvaraha. Sadhya hridyavaruditet kutibi shushishish takshanat. Bhagavatam says that this Srimad Bhagavatam completely rejects those cheating processes and puts forward the highest truth, which is available to those devotees who are free of matsarya, near matsaranam satam. They're satam, and they're free of matsarya, this envy. This truth is the absolute reality, distinguished from illusion for the benefit of all. It is compelled by Mahamuni Vyas in his maturity. What need is there for any other scripture? As soon as one submissively hears the Srimad Bhagavatam, that culture of knowledge is established in his heart. By this culture of knowledge, the Lord is established in one's heart. So in this way, the Bhagavatam emphasizes time and time again the falsity of mundane material relationships, because they're always a reflection of what I don't want to see or what I want to see. And therefore, we have not essentially got over ourselves yet. We can't get over ourselves. We're always meditating, trying to see these things, these divine qualities in another person. We're not actually whole. We're not whole people. And so at a certain point, psychologists speak of this, there's a split, like as we're growing up as a child, we all have a split, like a trauma. Something happens, whatever it is, in some way, shape, or form, there's a split where little baby realizes, wait a minute, I'm a separate entity, things like that. Little baby realizes. And before, it's just, mom is my God, essentially. Mommy's my God. Mommy and daddy can do anything. Everything's up to them. And that's a kind of a reflection of the real consciousness of the living entity, that Krishna is God. Radha Krishna, Mother, Father, God are everything. And that, like Prahlad Maharaj, he simply just was completely surrendered. But at a certain point, the living entity cracks and then comes into this persona. And that could be so many things, right? We see the little baby, the beautiful little baby, and, everybody's, loving him, and you're so sweet and so nice, and pinching the cheeks and all these things. And the baby thinks, yeah, I'm beautiful. I'm cool, It's going like that. And then that becomes the persona. And we see, depending on the family dynamic, so many things happen. And the baby's analyzing the feelings, and so many things happen. Now I got to be the perfect little child. I'm the perfect little child. I'm everything I do for my parents. I love my parents. I'm perfect for my parents. And it's also an act. I was that child. I was like the like the one who was like, I'm getting the straight A's and the, perfect scores and everything. And then, like the space cadet. And then my brother was like, just like at war constantly with my mom and my dad, like literal war. But he had his own, reason for that. And so therefore we all live. And what happens is in time, that self-hatred, it's got to bite back at us because we're thinking and not acting. There's not coherence, and we act a certain way, or we act with a certain wrong intention. If you act out of devotional service, what's the result? Some reaction, right? When you act in a non-devotional way, no matter what it is, every single thought, action, and word that's done, that's not in pure bhakti, is going to have a reaction. We don't think about it. We don't think about what I'm actually sowing here. And it's always going to affect us. So, therefore, when one realizes I'm not this body, when one actually accepts this philosophy, and this is all the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we are saved, we are loved, we are whole despite ourselves. Despite those things I don't want to face. And I was just, I've been doing a lot of different kind of things. And I was just doing a little writing experiment the other night. I thought, let me write down the darkest part of my psyche. It's just so obvious because we think thoughts, like, oh, there's a lusty thought, there's an angry thought, but like, that's not part of my persona, la, 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 la. Move it out of the way. That's not my persona. That's not who I'm trying to be right now. And so, yes, we're trying to be I'm wearing my spiritual costume. I'm a spiritual man, but it's only religion. Until you come to the point of genuine conversion, salvation, God experience, it's only really a religion. Because, all these things are there, but I'm putting out all this. And then, when the sun goes down and I'm alone with my own thoughts, the rush, all of the thoughts from the day, all of the repressed things, all of that dark duality that's within this body, that's within the mind, it can't be avoided. The duality of the material world manifests. And sometimes it comes out. We think, why did I act like that with that person? Or, maybe externally we're saying, nice to meet you. Yeah, you're such a wonderful devotee, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. But internally, you never know. So many things. Right? So what is this? We think I'm going to just, eventually Krishna will take it away. But you have to put that work in. But the point is that because we're trying to keep up that role, we're not actually humble. Are we now? We're trying to keep up that role of, Ganga Prabhu always says, Jo Sadhu. Like you're trying to keep up the Jo Sadhu role. But what is a genuine sadhu? Krishna says, Api chat sudaracharo bhajate mamananyabhak sadareva samantavyaha samyag vivashito saha. That even if one is sudarachar, horrible, but he has bhajate mamananyabhak, then he is a genuine sadhu. And if you don't respect him, then you're offensive. That's what Krishna says. And so we're at the temple, we see so many wonderful devotees. It doesn't even, sometimes devotees are very hard to be around certain devotees, and that's okay to acknowledge that this devotee and me really are not vibing well. But if we see that actually, like, oh, this guy chants his rounds every day. He does service every day. He's not given up, and he hasn't given up for so many years. Then we have to, in our hearts at least, acknowledge that that is a saintly person. And that Krishna loves them dearly. But every living entity Krishna loves too, but especially such a person who's determined to perform devotional service. So the point I want to make is that when a living entity cracks, when we're actually broken, and this is certain spiritual personalities have said this happens more or less late 20s, early 30s, doesn't have to, because once we go through the actual darkness, we have to make some mistakes. We're all making mistakes. We're going to make mistakes if we're conditioned, right? We may pretend we're not conditioned. How long can we pretend? Vaisheshika Prabhu, he gives like a what to do if you fall down, like notebook, and one of the things he says is you have to repeat this phrase: "I am not a pure devotee. I am not liberated." What an idiotic thought! Think I am liberated. No liberated person thinks that. Prabhupada said, "No one is liberated in the presence of a beautiful woman." I am not even liberated. So, therefore, we're not liberated until we are right there with Krishna. That's liberation, right? Salokya Sharsti Samipya Sarupyaikwatam. Salokya Sharsti. Either you're on the same planet, you have the same opulence, you have the same form. Anybody have the same form as Krishna? No. So, anybody living on the same planet as Krishna? Anybody have some of the opulences of Krishna? Anybody associated with Krishna? So even then, we see that the staunch and very advanced devotees who are practically liberated, they're very staunch in their desire to follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So the point we want to make here is that when a living entity realizes, what? When I wrote down those things, and I wrote down the darkest kind of things in my mind, just really like the descent into hell. No, it was really profound, because it cracked. It cracked my mind. Because I know that I'm not these things, but it was acknowledging. Maybe we can do it at the end. Maybe we can do it at the end.
Yes, I remember what I was saying.
Okay. We're acknowledging that that I am not, that I'm this isn't me, and that I'm not actually, this persona is not me either. And so it was like a jarring moment. I was actually shaking, like I just let go of that whole image I've been putting on. I was like shaking, like what the heck's going on? And so in acknowledging that, one has a realization, and this is all in accordance with our Shastra, that we are saved and loved and adored by Krishna despite ourselves. We, by our own envy, have come to this material world, and due to association with the modes of material nature, we have identified with this body, and in identifying with this body and taking on a material body, we take up a dual nature. I heard this individual means we have a dual nature here in this body. And there's never a time where we're not going to have to deal with that dark part of ourselves. And I just noticed, being around my spiritual master for so long, is he's very open and honest about his own kind of like darkness. He's the most light kind of loving devotee I know, but simultaneously he's never not one to acknowledge how the mind is full of darkness. So this is where we kind of enter the idea of grace, that Krishna loves you despite yourself. And that, we may take another body, we may not take another body. The devotee shouldn't care about these things. Ultimately, the devotee should think, I'm the soul, and I've come to this position, and rather than trying to fix this bad bargain, which is this body and this mind, let me realize and acknowledge the darkness and realize that I'm loved despite all of it. Despite myself, Krishna loves me. Despite all of the mistakes, Krishna loves me. And then I'm no longer fighting to keep up the false ego. Krishna, he loves me, the soul, no matter what. The soul is loved by God. At all times, in all places, under all circumstances, Krishna loves us. And there's really, I mean, my Guru Maharaj has told me this so many times, there's really nothing you can do that can make Krishna not love you. So why do we fight so hard? As long as we're fighting, as long as that false ego is fighting, we can't get the grace, you see. We can't chant the holy name nicely. It'll always be disturbed. It'll always be written with thoughts and sleep and all these things because we are fighting desperately to keep up the image. But when you let go of that and you realize that, hey, Krishna loves me under all circumstances. And even if I don't go back to Godhead, that's Krishna's will, right? And so what did the gopis say? Lord Chaitanya said, that whether you accept me, whether you don't accept me, whether you're present before me, still you remain my Lord. There's a devotee who has that consciousness that now I'm going to do my best to serve you. I'm not going to be perfect. I love you. And I know that you love me and that whatever you do, you're my surat. You're the dearest friend to me. And therefore, whatever you do to me is for my benefit and for my ultimate good. And so when one realizes that, then one can walk in a new way. One experiences grace in life. And every advanced and loving and wonderful devotee I know acknowledges that I'm not perfect. Acknowledges that I'm not the greatest. How is it anybody can follow the Hari Bhakti Vilas? And so there's this point that actually Krishna says, abandon all religion and surrender unto me. What does that actually mean? It means follow the religion as strictly as possible. That's surrender. No. It means accepting that actually Krishna loves me despite myself, despite the duality of this body. I, the soul, am loved all the time. And so we let go of that spiritual ego. That's the next kind of trap in Maya, that I have a spiritual ego. Now my false ego has morphed itself into brahmachari or a devotee. My false ego wears tilak and all these things. And so as long as we have a body, we're in the modes. And there's one purport. There's one nice purport here. This nice verse. I want to focus on this. I'll bring this up tomorrow in class too. It's beautiful, beautiful statement here in chapter 14. Krishna speaks about the modes of material nature, right? And he says this nice thing. He says, when one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So all things are done by the modes, but he knows the Supreme Lord who is beyond the modes. And what does it mean to know the Supreme Lord? That's the love. He says, when the embodied being is able to transcend these modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. And then Arjuna says, O my Lord, by which symptoms is one known who has transcended these modes of nature? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature? How does he transcend? What is his behavior and how does he transcend the modes? And so Krishna says here, he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion. I don't know about you, Prabhus, but I really hate attachment and delusion. As a devotee, we think like that, right? I hate this attachment. He who does not hate attachment, illumination, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. So he's unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions. What does that mean? It means that the reactions are happening, but I'm not going to sway away from my seva. I'm not going to sway away from my japa, from my devotion to Krishna. Unwavering, transcendental, neutral. Knowing that the modes alone are active. Who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress. Who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye. Who is equal toward the desirable, Hare Krishna, and the undesirable. Who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. So this is Krishna's definition of someone who has transcended the modes, and Prabhupada gives a very enlivening purport. He says, Arjuna submitted these three different questions, and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in the material world, embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the three modes of material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. So we should be neutral, meaning that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things, and depending on our particular situation, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, we may find that I'm acting in attachment from in the mode of passion. There's, with the symptom of the mode of passion, great attachment and hankering and a tendency for fruitive activities. So if you feel that in your heart, I'm attached, I want this, I'm hankering for this, then what do we know? Mode of passion is active, correct? And so, or the mode of ignorance, I'm lazy, I'm tired. Mode of ignorance is active. Or, I'm so happy, I'm dancing, I'm chanting, nice. Mode of goodness is active. Yeah, I'm a very nice pujari. Whatever it is, you think. So, neutral in all cases. And so, I think you're probably good. We only got 5 people.
Is it offered?
Yeah.
The sweet stuff?
Yeah, everything's offered. When one is, so with this neutral, he should engage himself in devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. So therefore, in all these cases, whatever's happening with the body, all the attachment, all the anger, greed, delusion, whatever it is, keep chanting, keep doing your devotional service. Don't identify with the body. I'm the spirit soul. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when he transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. There it is. Material body is saying so many things. Do this, do that, do this, do that. It'll be better this way. It'll be better that way. Do this, do that. We don't have to accept these dictations. All we do is have to accept the dictations of Guru and Krishna. And so when someone's really under the control of the modes, it means that their devotional service is not present. And therefore they may do crazy things like be extremely offensive toward Vaishnavas and the temple. So we have to face the reactions of those things, undeniably and undoubtedly. And they will identify with the body, and therefore they'll suffer those things. So one does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act. They're going to act, folks. If you're in the mode of passion, you're going to feel it. Going to act. But as a spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. So he's not desiring to enjoy it, nor get out of it. So when we desire to enjoy the body, there's problems. Thus, transcendentally situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. So then Krishna gives another verse where he says, how do you actually come to that platform? And he says, Mamcha yavya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sadhanan samatit yatam brahmabhuya yakalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. The level of Brahman is what we spoke about earlier, Brahmabhuta prasanatma, nasochti nakamshiti, no hankering, no desire. Samasarveshu bhuteshu, he sees beings equally, and then mad bhaktim labate param, he can actually develop genuine love for God. So Krishna says, this verse is a reply to Prabhupada says, this verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different expansions, Rama, Narayan, etc. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of these forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, eternal, etc. So, when you engage in devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering primarily, then you're always transcendental. So, here's the point. Krishna says, Arjuna asks, by what is one impelled to act as if forcefully? Krishna says it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born from contact with the material mode of passion and which burns like fire and is never satiated. So we understand that if I want something, I gotta go for it. It's lust. What do we do? We're affected by lust. What do we do? We're affected by ignorance. What do we do? Remain neutral and transcendental. Continuously chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Knowing that Krishna loves me despite myself, despite the mistakes, despite the pride, despite all these things, these mental things that I'm trying to put on. Krishna still loves me. And this body, this mind is light and dark. And so the soul is light completely, and Krishna loves the soul undeniably always. And so there's examples of this. Devotees make mistakes sometimes. Parikshit Maharaj made a mistake. He garlanded Shamakarishi with a snake. Vritrasura was a demon trying to kill the demigods, but internally he was like being forced by these modes to act in such a sinful way. Previously he was Chitraketu. He'd been through a lot, correct? His son dies, son's murdered by his wives. Then his son comes back to life and tells him, I don't love him. And then he, then he becomes a pure devotee for a time, decides to take shelter of God. Then he laughs at Lord Shiva and gets cursed to become a demon and has to fight King Indra and then gets his head cut off with a lightning bolt. And so, it's a heavy life, heavy 2 lifetimes there. But in any case, even as he was fighting King Indra, he was praying to the Lord, I just want to serve your servants. I just want to serve your servants. He's saying like this. It's the most beautiful prayer in the Bhagavatam. He says, my dear Lord, when will I be able to be a servant of your pure servants? When once again will I take the dust of your lotus feet? And so even though he was being forced to act in this way, he was always thinking, Krishna, I just want you. And so that's the real grace, you see. That's the real grace we can receive rather than trying to pretend. Let me be real with Krishna at least. It's not going to change much to acknowledge our own darkness. We still have to act accordingly. We don't not going to go out and kill people or do crazy things. But at least I know what I'm capable of, what this body and mind is capable of, and I'm not denying it to myself. Rather, I'm accepting the love of Krishna, and then we can see other people in that light too. Krishna says, one who sees the super soul equally situated in the hearts of all living entities no longer degrades himself by his mind. And so in this way, one can take the path of descent, the descending path, which is that I am going down into the darkness, seeing what I am, and God is coming to me and bringing me up. Lord Chaitanya delivered Jagai and Madai. the most sinful, and so loves them despite. And so we can be in that state where we know our position, we know the fallen nature of the soul, but still the chanting is going on, the love for Krishna is going on, and Krishna loves me despite that. And so therefore the devotee has hope against hope. It's a symptom of surrender. That Krishna will deliver me. Despite all my natures, Krishna will deliver me. He has firm faith in that. And therefore, we see that he's no longer trying to put on a farce. And therefore, he can be more genuine, more relaxed. Relationship with God takes off at that stage. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Prasad is coming soon. There's just a few of us.
Can you repeat in the beginning something about the body? And then just the phrase that you started with, and it's really good. And you know, everything you said is real good, but I just want to remember that phrase, how you started going into duality and I completely.
We're not this body?
No. It was right in the beginning when you started.
I don't know. You have to go. You can look on YouTube and watch the class if you want afterward. It'll be posted on his on YouTube. I'm not sure what part I said, but the point is that we're not this body, we're the soul, and Krishna loves us despite it.
Yeah.
So the body's dual, right? It's a dual thing. I have this image in my mind of the soul and then the body, light and dark. And we're in this kind of light and dark world. The world is light and dark, the mind is light and dark, the body is light and dark, birth and death.
It really reminded me of like my grandma used to say, like, no matter what religion you are or of no religion, like what really matters is to be a good person. You know what I mean? To be a good son, to be a good friend, to be really that good. You know what I mean?
To some degree it does, but at the same time it doesn't. Because if someone is just a good person, that can be just a front. But if they don't have any love for God, what does that do spiritually for them? Even a bad person who loves God can attain grace.
Oh no, yeah, but I'm saying, because like you said, there's a lot of farce, right? There's a lot of fakes. So at the end of the day, as long as you show that you're a good person, heartedly, right, with your heart, I guess that would make, because there's a lot of people that go to church.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know here, but you know, to the Christian church, but as soon as they leave the church, Catholic church is the same way, right? Because you go do your, whatever they do on Sundays, by Monday they're right back at whatever they were.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, naturally, that's whether one's religious or unreligious, one can't live, wrongly. But the highest spiritual principle is that one has a relationship with God. The point is that even if one's a so-called good person, that can get that ego of being a good person can get in the way of that ability to really connect with God. Whereas one who admits that I'm a fallen, conditioned soul, that person who can admit that and realize that Krishna loves me despite all that, and I want to have a relationship with him, and starts to live rather than try to be a good person artificially. If I'm just going to try to be a good person for the sake of being a good person, what use is it? Sukadeva Goswami says, Shrama eva he kevalam, dharma swanishitva pumsam vishvakshinikatashyaha. And whatever you do in human society, if you don't have taste for Krishna consciousness, Vasudeva kataruchihi, if you don't have vishvakshinikata, rati for this Krishna, for God, attachment, love for him, then Shrama eva kevalam, it's useless. And there's another verse, the great Saint Narad Muni says, Tvatva sadamam charanam bhujam harir bhajana pakvo tapatet tato yari yatrakva bhadramabuddha musyakim kavartato bhajatam swadamata. Says, even if one abandons everything and becomes a devotee but fails, such a person didn't lose out. But a person who does everything right, he's the best person materially, but doesn't become a devotee of God, he doesn't gain anything. Because we're not saying, this is kind of core principle of Christian life, right? That we're not saved by works.
Yeah.
We're saved by grace. And so, but when you decide that I'm going to be a devotee, you're not going to be perfect. You'll make mistakes. You'll also have challenges. You'll also make mess ups. But when you're unalloyed and you have unalloyed devotion to God, that love will make you, you'll transcend all these bad qualities in time. And that's the power of Krishna consciousness, is that when one begins to chant Hare Krishna, one develops attachment for Krishna. That attachment for Krishna leads one to cease the activities which were previously inhibiting their relationship with Krishna, including those activities which are so-called bad. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean they don't make a mess up. But the point is that they have this, what Krishna says, bhajate mam ananya bhak. This bhajate mam ananya bhak makes them a sadhu, and Krishna says they quickly become righteous and achieve lasting peace. So, but if someone's just acting like a good person, like we see these kind of like these philanthropist people like Bill Gates, here he is, donating so much money to so-called charities. Simultaneously, he's a sicko. Yeah. He's a sick monster. And, there's so many people like that. The demons have a tendency to show themselves as good people, but they're actually sick monsters. So, therefore, the most important principle, whether one's a Catholic or a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu, is that they try to follow and to love the Lord. And I mean, there's an element where as long as St. Paul in the Bible, he said that the law will break you. That if we just think that me going to church every Sunday, coming to the temple, and I go to Mangalartik every day, I do all these things. If we think that in itself is the quintessential element, that if I do all these things, it's not that. It's that those things are expressions of our love for the Lord. They're not the things that are saving us. The love is what's saving us. And so the chanting is what's helping us develop that love. And when that love exists, when that devotion, that attachment exists, then one has an experience where I am no longer identified as a body, or I'm no longer identifying with all those horrible parts of myself. I'm acknowledging them. I'm acknowledging my fallen nature. And I'm not afraid to entertain the thoughts of that fallen nature. That's what I've been noticing, is that rather than trying to deny these kind of thoughts I don't like, I just think them. And that's not me, but that's part of me. That's something I got to deal with. And let it go and realize that even despite that, I'm loved. That's grace. You see, that's the experience of tears. That, like when I wrote that page, I was crying. Still Krishna loves me despite all these things. I'm not this body. I'm not these things. But I've been afflicted with these modes of nature. And Krishna still cares. Krishna's still there. And he's still coming to me in the form of his holy name. I'm still tasting the japa. I'm still tasting the kirtan. I'm still tasting the relish of reading Srimad Bhagavatam and speaking Bhagavad Gita. And so despite ourselves, we are loved. And then that allows us to be genuine with each other too. That's the way it helps our relationships with each other, is now I'm no longer farcing people out. I know what I am. And, I treat people respectfully, lovingly, nicely, make mistakes sometimes, get angry once in a while. Nonetheless, I am still receiving that grace of God. That's the element of actual salvation. And that's what Lord Nityananda and also Jesus Christ said the same thing. Go and sin no more. When Lord Nityananda, after he saved the two brothers, Jagai and Madai, Lord Nityananda said, go and sin no more. Okay, I love you. I love you, even all those things you did. They were like, Jagai and Madai were killers. They were rapists. They were like black magic performers. They were everything evil and bad, but Lord Nityananda said, go and sin no more. And that's the first manifestation of love for God that we can experience in this world, is that Guru Kripa. The Guru is saying, go and sin no more.
You made a lot of good points. I'm very happy.
Happy you came, brother.
That I came.
The video. The video. Hare Krishna.
Oh, damn. I'm over here talking away now.
No, no,